Twins, they hold on, they bounce back versus Cleveland in Game 2. Final score 4-1. We're breaking it all down next on the Locked On Twins postcast.
You are Locked On Twins postcast, part of Locked On Minnesota on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What's going on? Back in the lab, back at it. Another Minnesota Twins postcast episode right here on the Locked On Sports Minnesota Network. That's your team every day. You got myself, Luke Inman, at Luke_Spinman. That's the man, Sweet Lou Hennessy. Give him a follow. He's on X, at Sweet Lou MN. He's our Twins expert over at Zone Coverage MN. And Lou, before we jump into all the action from tonight, quick reminder, tonight's episode brought to us by Prize Picks. Prize Picks, the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnMLB. Use code all lowercase LockedOnMLB for $50 instantly with any $5 wager. Okay, Game 2 versus Cleveland, just hanging on to that 6th seed by a thread, man. Zebby on the mound. He was rock solid, kept him in it, chewed up some innings, 4 2/3. 5 hits, only 1 earned run, though. 5 Ks to just 1 walk on 76 pitches. Matt Wallner got him on the board both times early on. Once in the 3rd inning, that put him up 1-0. Again in the 5th inning to take the lead back 2-1. 8th inning, that's when you finally got some life jolted into things. 2-run home run for Willie Castro, his 12th of the year. That gives them some insurance you knew they would need later on. They're up 4-1. Duran starts out the 9th with a double and a walk. So Griffin Jax comes in, gives up an infield single. So now the bases are juiced. Bo Naylor, he's the winning run at the plate. Jax gets him to ground out to the pitcher. Twins win Game 2 after all the dramatics. They made us sweat. And I know, one win doesn't take the bad taste out of our mouths, but it's still a huge win just for some morale, some momentum, and probably that clubhouse psyche, I would imagine, if nothing else. Lou, just your biggest takeaways, kind of your 8 topics from tonight's win.
I think redemption definitely has to be the main topic. After such a heartbreaking loss last night, the best way to get through that is to come punching back. And that's what the Twins did. They did really well in the first half of this season, and we just haven't seen it in the last, month and a half or so. But for them to get some redemption, to get that punch back, to see Griffin Jax come in and finish the game, especially after giving up the go-ahead home run last night, massive morale booster. And who knows, maybe this is one of those tent pole victories that kind of propels them further this season, but yet to be seen.
Little deep dive into Zebby's day. Okay, 4 2/3, 5 hits, only 1 earned. Again, 5 Ks to 1 walk on 76 pitches. I mean, when you needed a quality start, and these young guys lately, we'll get into it here in a second, just kind of been running out of gas. How encouraging was that to have Zebby go out and just chew up some quality innings?
That's absolutely huge for the Twins rotation. Even though he didn't go the distance of 5 or 6, 7 innings, anything like that, he definitely gave his team a chance to remain competitive and in the game. I think his command was looking much better today as opposed to the last few times we've seen him, which is massive. All these starts that they're going to get from their rookie starters are going to be big deals if they can put something respectable together, and that's what Zebby did tonight.
Who have you just been bigger picture, more encouraged with? Who's got the higher ceiling of the two? David Festa, who we'll see on Thursday, or Zebby Matthews? Just from in general, this is still a very small sample we've got, in the past 2-3 months.
Sure. I think they're both pillars of the Twins rotation for the next few years. I think you're going to see a lot of both of them. In terms of immediate value, I feel like David Festa's stuff might play, in short relief or, maybe his last couple starts going through the year. Zebby, he started the year at single A. It's pretty miraculous that he's made it up here in the first place, and anything we get from him is going to be kind of gravy at this point. But it's a tough call, and it's a good problem to have too many young pitchers in the system.
Yeah, it's been a long, long time since Minnesota Twins have been able to say that sentence. Oh, we got our first Cole Irvin sighting. Just picked him up from Baltimore, I believe. Finally got a lefty in the mix. He was good enough, right? Cole Sands, Ronnie Henriquez, all with scoreless innings. But just in general, what is it with the scouting report as far as this bullpen goes? You got 11 games left. Is it like a lack of talent thing? Did they just kind of run out of gas? What is it? What's going on with the bullpen back there these last couple of weeks?
It is such a mystery. It feels like such an enigma because you have two anchors of the bullpen in John Duran and Griffin Jacks. And, I know that Duran's been working through some struggles recently, but I still consider him to be a truly elite option that any team would love to have at their disposal. So, two really, high-end contributors there, and then a bunch of kind of role players who have filled in. Cole Sands has been great. The back three there are pretty comfortable, but after that, it gets to be in the unreliable category where you find Caleb Thielbar and some of the other guys that they've been shuffling through.
Well, let's talk about these pitchers for a second, because I saw some just absolutely wild stats, some wild facts from Aaron Gleeman from The Athletic up on Twitter earlier this afternoon. Here's the first one. Minnesota Twins, they're 9-18 since August 18th, and their pitching staff has absolutely collapsed during that time. All Twins pitchers, their ERA ranks 27th in the league. Their WPA ranks 30th in the league. If you look at just the starters specifically, their 4.55 ERA, that ranks 22nd in the MLB. Starters WPA, that ranks 24th in the MLB. Craziest part is, when you think about those stats, that's with Pablo Lopez going 4-0 with a 1.11 ERA in 6 starts during that time. All other Twins pitchers have combined to go 5-18 with a 5.75 ERA since August 18th. So we're talking literally in the last month. So outside of Pablo, it's not just one guy, which makes it kind of so much more deflating and hard to figure out, doesn't it?
Sure thing. And it really makes you miss a guy like Joe Ryan, who I will touch on later with my nerdy stat. But, it's crazy to think about. I wonder what this rotation would look like if there was a healthy Joe Ryan in the number 2, number 3 slot to tag along Pablo and Bailey Ober and some of these young guys so that they can kind of work through some more of their growing pains at a more natural pace. But right now they just need the young guys so bad that they're just thrown into the fire.
Here's another one up on Twitter. Andrew Lutke. The Minnesota Twins have lost all these games since mid-August. August 18th versus Texas. We all remember that game. They had a 95% win probability late in that game. They lost that. 2 days later versus San Diego, an 86% win probability late in that game. They lost that one. 5 days later versus St. Louis, 91% win probability. They lost that game. And then 9/16, so just a couple nights ago, versus Kansas City, 89% win probability. They lost that. And then you can even talk about last night, too, versus Cleveland, 86% win probability late in that game. Nobody loses games they've already won, quite like the Minnesota Twins. So I get it. You ain't going to win every game all the time. Every team's going to have some backbreakers along the way. But that's 5 games, man. Just in the last month, they've literally turned a win, what should have been a win, into a loss. And boy, even if you won 4 of those 5, imagine the conversations we'd be having right now. That's just absolutely heartbreaking.
Yeah, and not even, taking aside the wins and losses of it, just think about the ups and downs of the morales that they've felt since then. Obviously each of those are heartbreaking in their own manner, but thereafter maybe they got a little bit of steam with a win here and there and then just have another heart ripper moment. It's been exhausting, it's been exhausting for the players. It's been exhausting for the fans. It's the heat of the summer, it feels like right now in September, and that's not something we're used to necessarily.
All right, one more good one from our guy, Brandon Warren. Minnesota Twins, when they score 2 runs or fewer, they're a 1-43 record. That's worse than MLB. Now, obviously, when you score 2 runs or fewer, you're not going to win a lot of games. But 1-43, worse than the MLB. Minnesota Twins, when they score 3 runs or more, 78-28. Now 79-28. That's third best in the MLB. That's insane for the fact that they've only scored 2 runs or fewer 44 times this year. That in itself is kind of disgusting. B, the fact that their magic number is 3 runs, which just feels like nothing. But if they can just score 3 runs, man, third best record in the MLB, that just feels like 3 runs. That feels like the lowest bar that ever existed for a Major League Baseball team, does it not? 3 runs.
It's been a tightrope act. It feels like, you know what I mean? It's that means 2 things. It means they're competitive, and it means that they have their holes as well. So there's a lot of pitfalls, but it's just kind of like I said, that high wire act that they're working right now.
Yeah, as tough as that is to hear, it's kind of impressive. You're right. There's kind of some pros to the cons in there as well, that if they can just score 3 runs, man, they have been one of the best baseball teams in the entire league this year. Rocco report time. So game 2 versus Cleveland, the Rocco report. it says what?
Man, I got chills when he brought Griffin Jacks back in after he gave it up last night. I love when I know Rocco especially loves to do that when somebody in the bullpen falters. He likes to get him right back on the horse the next day. And thank goodness it all worked out for Jacks there at the end there. And it was pretty fitting that he got to field that grounder himself and stomp on first base after giving up that bomb last night. So Rocco, I think he gets a lot of heat for his management of the bullpens, especially in late game situations. And I think he nailed it tonight. And got to give him his flowers too.
I tend to agree. It sounds like you do as well. I tend to agree. Get that guy back out there. The longer he has to sit out there and just sulk about that blown loss or whatever it may be, I just feel like does more damage than good. Is he like one of the more aggressive managers in the entire MLB when it comes to that philosophy, though? I know that's a tough thing to, have a tangible stat for, I guess. But is that the way it kind of feels throughout the landscape of the league right now?
Yeah, I don't know where he stands in terms of the rest of the league, but I imagine it would be pretty high, if anything, because the Twins have just had so many deflating losses coming around to their bullpen. So he has definitely more opportunities to go down that route. So I would imagine he's high up there, but who knows?
Yeah, more opportunities and just not a lot of options back there, quality options back there anyways either. So, that makes a lot of sense as well. All right, plenty more deep dive from this one. Plus, got that nerdy stat of the day. That's all coming up right after this. Quick reminder, tonight's episode brought to you by eBay Motors. Passion, drive, patience, the formula for winning championships. Also what keeps your ride or die alive. And eBay Motors, they got everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to the ultimate peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights. They got it all. And whether into speed, power, or style, they got you covered. 122 million parts for your number one ride or die. You'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay's Guaranteed Fit, your part guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back with all the parts you need at the prices you want. Easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay's Guaranteed Fit, only available to U.S. customers. All right, so I know, Detroit, Boston, Seattle, all three teams kind of breathing down the Twins' neck for the 6th seed. They own the tiebreaker with Detroit. That could prove to be absolutely huge. But just looking at the remaining schedules, I think last I checked 10 minutes ago before we jumped on, Detroit and Kansas City was tied 1 apiece in the 6th inning. But which of those three teams scare you the most? I know Detroit's the closest at a game and a half back. Seattle's 2 games back. But the fact that you play 3 with Boston coming up, if you tank that series, man, they're right there, right in the mix too. So which of those 3 teams scare you the most? Is it just Detroit? Because just from a numbers perspective, they're the closest right now.
Yeah, I think you're going to want to get your distance from all 3 of them. I think all 3 have the potential to be, pretty dangerous here. Yeah. I would probably give the edge to Detroit, just with kind of the helium effect that they have. They've had a pretty positive last couple months, really. I think they had a winning month in July and August, and now they're taking it on into September. So they've got some momentum. However, the Seattle Mariners have one of the best rotations in the game with a bunch of young aces. If they're ready to take it to the next level, now's the time when they're going to kind of see it. So both could be pretty dangerous. Hopefully the Twins can make a series out of that Red Sox weekend and do some damage there.
Yeah, Detroit, KC tied up 1 apiece, top of the 8th. We'll try to keep you updated on that as well. Theo and I did this last night. I just want to get your quick 2 cents. I know they won tonight, but that's just not enough to kind of take this bad taste out of all our mouths by any means. So what actually is, in your opinion, your least favorite thing about this team right now? Because they do have everybody back. They got Correa back. I know he took the night off tonight, but Buxton went 1 for 3. They got the big names back. And again, I know they just won tonight, but just in general, very little fight, at least offensively, the past 2 months. Those rookies we talked about in the back end of the rotation, those guys look like they're just running out of gas. There's a million things I feel like you could pick at, but what's your biggest gripe with this team right now with 11 games to go?
Yeah, I think it's just tricky because so many guys are back, and that's exciting. We love seeing Byron and Carlos back in the lineup. Even if it's a 1 night on, 1 night off, we'll take it at this point, get them in there a handful of games and hopefully push it into the playoffs. But just because everybody's back doesn't mean everybody's healthy and everybody's right and in a good spot to contribute. And I think we're seeing that from some guys who maybe this is the deepest they've ever gone in a season. Maybe they're working through some injuries of their own. I'm talking about guys like Trevor Larnach. He's fighting through a hamstring injury and he's still looking pretty good at the plate, which is why he continues to play, but he's nowhere near 100%. You look at Royce, there's some things where he kind of looks like he's uncomfortable every now and then. It's the dog days right now and everybody's pretty tired, and that comes across in so many different ways in a game. And when it comes across during a loss, it feels pretty irritating, so here's hoping that they have a couple of weeks to kind of get back on their feet and kind of get going again.
Yeah, and speaking of okay, we're in the dog days. No team's healthy right now, but right. Clearly some of these guys are hobbled. The injuries just absolutely decimated this team specifically for a huge chunk of the season. And again, I hate blaming injuries because every team's got them, but I think you can blame the fact that the front office went out, they got you zero resources, zero help, both in the offseason and at the deadline to just kind of help replenish some of those woes, some of those weaknesses. And I think that complaint is more than warranted because again, everybody's got injuries. Yes, the Twins specifically really seem to get hammered this year more than other teams, it kind of felt like, but sitting here again with 11 games to go, I don't know if they got the talent. I don't know if they got the horses. I don't know if they got the manpower to get hot like Texas did last year and go on a run. Or, let me play devil's advocate, does getting Correa and Buxton back move the needle enough for you?
It just might be. It just might be enough if they can continue to play at kind of star level that, we've kind of come to expect from them. But, going back to your last point too, just with, I'm sorry, I missed it. But let's go back to Carlos Correa and Byron Buxton. Like you said,
getting the big names back. Yeah.
Yep. Getting them back. And then hopefully the guys that can kind of rebound from, some ugly second half numbers who were really contributing in the first half. Jose Miranda, Willie Castro, guys like that who, showing some signs of life. And if they can continue to do that and get back to their first half numbers, that's going to be what's biggest for this team, I feel like.
Yeah. And maybe you just answered this then. If that was all the bad stuff, what is the thing that you're kind of clinging on to that gives you some hope, some belief that they could get hot again and go on a run? Because as we all know, especially in the MLB, chip sharing a chance, never know. Yeah. They got their big names dude back. So, hopefully you can just get hot and go on a run. I mean, what makes you at least go to bed with some optimism that, hey, they could get hot and actually do some damage, maybe surprise some people when this thing's all said and done?
Yeah, I do feel optimistic in the fact that even if they just barely squeeze by, sneak into that wild card round of the playoffs, you start with Pablo Lopez on the mound, hopefully, unless you need to use him in that last weekend. That's an excellent place to start. He's been probably the hottest pitcher of the second half, and starting with somebody who could maybe go 7-8 innings, get you right to those high leverage arms. That's a good pitching plan, and that gives you a little chance, and at least it'd be an entertaining game. You have to imagine.
Switching gears here a little bit, because we never ended up talking about it, but the other day Theo sent me just the most bizarre bananas article about a Twins catcher down in the minors who got released because he was tipping pitches. Derek Bender. Give the people the quick 60-second elevator pitch, cliff notes. What the heck was that all about? How it all ended once the dust settled too, because that thing was just like, from what I read from the ESPN article, that thing was like cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, man. Was it not?
Yeah, no, just a wild story. So basically the cliff notes of it is in the last game of the season, the Mighty Muscles were, clinging to their playoff hopes. If they win the game, they have a chance to get into the postseason and continue their season.
I love the Mighty Muscles, too, by the way.
Yes,
you know what I mean?
Of course.
Yeah, huge, rich history with those Mighty Muscles.
Oh, the fans, just the salt of the earth. Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
But anyway, it was a pretty pivotal game, and this Bender was behind the plate. And according to this story, he just said he started giving out pitches that were going to be coming. He's like, hey, fastball's coming. Be ready for it. And,
so this is like Bull Durham, Kevin Costner, right. Bull Durham. Like, hey, dude, here comes the meat. Fastball's coming right down the pipe.
And in this instance, though, I don't think he was trying to teach a lesson to the pitcher. Who knows? Maybe the dust hasn't settled yet. Maybe there's more to this story here. But he told people that he just wanted the season to be over. He wanted to go home. And so he that's the story right now. And like I said, the dust hasn't quite settled yet, but I'm going to be really curious to see where this ends up.
Wait a minute. They were like a game out of the playoff contention, you said, and he just wanted the season to be over?
That's what it sounds like. That's what the story was saying.
That's a huge red flag on my scouting report there. Don't like that. Yeah, just not every day you hear a story about that. Nerdy stat of the daytime, you mentioned you got a good one about Joe Ryan. What do you got tonight? Lay it on us.
Yeah, so I'm going to start with Zebby, actually. So opponents are hitting .350 against Zebby when he has 2 strikes on them. He just doesn't have that put away option. This is over the last month.
It's like a Hall of Fame number. Just give me 2 strikes. Just walk up there and say, hey, Blue, give me 2 strikes.
Give me 2. Yeah, I'll start out 2. That's 3rd highest in Major League Baseball this month. Yeah. So that's been a tough go for him. And that just shows you how much they miss Joe Ryan, because Joe Ryan only gave up a 199 batting average when he got 2 strikes against his opponents. That was 10th best by the time that he got hurt for the season. So we miss Joe Ryan. Like I said, can you just imagine where they'd be right now if they had that kind of co-ace alongside?
Absolutely. I think we all knew what a massive blow that was at the time. Right. I think it's been even worse, though, at just watching everything unfold the way it has been. I will say that. You mentioned there's 2 other guys with worse batting average allowed, I guess, with 2 strikes. Do you happen to have? I'm just curious now. 350 seems insane. I'm just curious if you have them.
It does seem insane. I don't have the page up right now, but I'm terrified that it might be somebody else on the Twins. So I don't know. We'll see.
Dude. Yeah. All right. Don't go anywhere. Got to look at these wild card, these playoff standings. That's all coming up right after this. Quick reminder, tonight's episode also brought to us by Prize Picks. Now, Prize Picks, it's America's #1 fantasy sports app with more than 3 million members to date. And for me and my money, it's just by far the easiest. It's the most exciting way to get in on all the action while you watch your favorite sports and you watch your favorite players. So simple. All you got to do, you pick more or less on 2 or more player stats, and you watch the winnings roll in. Baseball season, obviously still in full swing here. So whether it's strikeouts, could be RBIs, could be home runs, you name it, they got it. Take your pick on more or less, add them to your Prize Picks entry today. Plus, they now offer Apple Pay, quick and easy deposits into your account all season long. Download the Prize Picks app, use code, all lowercase, Locked On MLB for $50 instantly with any $5 wager. Okay, game 3 and 4 tomorrow and Thursday. Bailey Ober on the mound tomorrow. You got David Festa Thursday. What's just the biggest headlines, the storylines, and like the head-to-head matchup things you're looking at the most here for these final 2 games with Cleveland?
Yeah, I think I'm really looking forward to the pitching matchups. After Pablo, you definitely want Bailey Ober, and I would probably put David Festa as 3rd in terms of guys that you want pitching in these pivotal series here. So I'm going to be enthused to watch the pitching matchups here and see if they can kind of edge out some of these low-scoring wins again.
No SWR in this 4-game series. Just happened to be the rotation of the days off.
Yeah, I think so. I think he's getting ready to start in Boston, I believe.
Got it. Okay, so playoff picture here again, almost 0 shot of winning this division now. Feels like whoever gets the 6th seed is pretty much locked in to go play Houston first and foremost in round 1. What's the biggest pros and cons when you think Twins versus Houston head to head? Like, what makes you think they can go in there and beat them, but also what makes this a really tough matchup, just knowing both teams and their strengths and weaknesses?
It's going to be a tough matchup, that's for sure. I think if there's anything to look forward to, it's that redemption story arc after last year being pretty competitive against them. Pablo Lopez showing some pretty good success against them in his career. Hopefully he could, be in one of those matchups there. You have to imagine he would be. So that'd be something to look forward to, but they're still the big bad wolf. They're a team with some veteran hitters that can really do some damage. Guys like Kyle Tucker, who's just coming back off the injured list, Yordan Alvarez, Jose Altuve, Alex Bregman. If half of those guys get hot, that's the series right there. It kind of feels like it. So, it'd be a tough call.
Yeah, not loving going to Houston by any means round
Yeah,
one, but also wouldn't love going to New York or
sure.
Baltimore for that
Yep.
matter either. So you want to
Yep.
be the best, got to beat the best. Remaining schedule, I'm just looking at it here. 11 games left, 2 with Cleveland, obviously. Boston, you mentioned next. Miami, Baltimore. So 1 to 10, how tough are these last 11 games?
I think we're going to see some fight from Boston. I'm not necessarily a huge believer of them, knock on wood, but I would probably put them in terms of 1 to 10. I'd probably put them in 6 to 7 competitive range
Yeah,
at
so
this
no
point in the
gimmies
season.
here. No
Yep.
gimmies.
Miami maybe a little lower. They're out of things and they're going to try to experiment some things too. But they could also be trying to play spoiler. So I'd probably put them at like a 3, 2 or a 3 probably. And then Baltimore, if they are still trying to nail down home field advantage for the playoffs, they're going to have a huge incentive to really try hard in those last 3 games. So I think they're going to be tough. They're going to be a 7 or an 8 for sure.
Yeah, no gimmies the rest of the way. Twins hold on. They win game 2 tonight, though. Final score 4-1. Again, 11 games left. 2 more with Cleveland. Bailey over on the mound tomorrow. First pitch, another 5:40 p.m. start time. Hey, huge shout out to all the everydayers out there that always make us your first listen. Rest assured, we'll be back each and every game right here, breaking it all down. Got to go check out all of Lou's work on X at Sweet Lou MN, plus all the work he's always ripping up over at zonecoveragemn.com. I always like to ask you guys every few weeks, anything new up over at zonecoveragemn.com we can go check out.
I had something out the other day about 3 Twins hitters that really need to rediscover their first half success if they're going to do anything. Kind of a point that we were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
So that's my latest right there. And just real quick, you asked about the Zebby Matthews question about the 2 worst pitchers.
Did you pull them up?
I pulled them up. It's Ryan Pepio and Eric Fetty. No big names or anything. But there's 2 pitchers who are excellent when they get to 2 strikes. They're both former Twins. They are Sonny Gray and Jose Barrios. So just putting salt in the wound there.
Yeah, of course. I figured one of them, when you said former Twin, I figured one of them would be Sonny Gray, but Jose Barrios, yeah, that one makes sense as well. All right, go like this video, subscribe to the channel. I'm Luke Inman on X, by the way, at Luke_Spinman. We'll see you next time, but until then, signing out.